Welcome to another soulful session where we talk about faith and mental health. We are your hosts, Jackie DeHora, a licensed mental health therapist, and Elias DeHora, a Christian counselor from Therapies Counseling. Today, we're going to continue answering your questions. And as a reminder, if you have any questions or any topic that you'd like for us to answer, you can send us a text at 305-925-0827. And I encourage you to listen to our other podcast sessions by visiting our website, therapiescounseling.org, and click on podcasts.
So here we are, another day, another week, a new session. And I'm really enjoying doing these sessions with you, obviously, not just because you're my wife and I love you. But I know that these sessions are helping so many people out there to the point where they're emailing us, texting us, and messaging us on social media questions, and we're gonna take your questions and answer the best way we can. So here's the next question: what does healthy dating look like? You know, healthy boundaries, healthy communication. Basically, what are the red and green flags that people should be looking out for? So to start out, what does necessarily classify? What is a red flag? Because we know there's green, there's red, there's even yellow, which means it doesn't mean that it's like you're done, we're done, this relationship is over. Red flag. I gotta get out of here. But let's start with the red flag. What does red flags mean that the person should be looking for in a relationship?
So when you say a red flag, I'm automatically thinking like, okay, unhealthy, abusive, which can kind of fall under like the category of somebody that's trying to control the other person, manipulate them, maybe lie to them, things like that, where it causes intentional harm to the other person.
Okay, so basically the other person is not really thinking much or feeling much towards the other person to even consider their feelings and what they may take out of the situation. And here's the first red flag. Controlling behavior. Talk to us through that. What does controlling behavior look like in a relationship? So let us know.
Yeah. So I actually remember being prior to, of course, to our marriage, I was in an unhealthy relationship, and the controlling behavior would look like, hey, I don't want you to wear shorts, or I don't want you to wear two-piece, bikinis, or I don't feel comfortable you talking to other guys, things like that, where it was just like, okay, when I, retrospectively look at it, the person was insecure. They felt, I don't know. I think they just had fear that something would happen, but that fear was now manifesting into that behavior of like, I need to control and tell you what to wear and who to talk to and what you can't, do.
Yeah. So the idea here is to control the other person's behavior. And something that came to my mind, even when you were mentioning that, it's like direction without a reason, and a legitimate reason too. Maybe if the person would have said, and let's just take it back to you guys, if you're in a controlling relationship, and your other significant other is just giving you some type of direction and controlling behavior, and without any reason too, like they're just saying, no, you cannot. No, it's just straight up no. And also in an erratic behavior too. Probably in a more healthy way, which could be a yellow flag, not necessarily a red flag. Could be one where the person's like, hey, do you mind not wearing that such revealing clothing? We're going to my mom's house, and I don't think that would be a good idea. Breaking the ice in type of way, or meeting in the middle some type of way, not in a way. And it's also always a question, never a command too. So good. So that's a good way to figure out, is this more of a red flag, yellow flag, or green flag? You wanted to say something about?
Yes. When you were saying the reason, what I thought was like, is what they're asking you rational? Right? Like, does it make sense? And if you can clearly see that it's stemming from their insecurity, or that it's really more of like, this is way more about you than it really is about me, right?
Then it doesn't necessarily have to be your responsibility to fix that person. But it can be your responsibility, especially if you want to stay in that relationship, to let them know like, hey, I don't appreciate you talking to me in that type of way. The choice of words that you use made me feel this way. Using I statements that could be not just for marriage, but everywhere. Using I was hurt. I felt uncomfortable. I felt shame. I felt embarrassed. when this happened. And then here's the other yellow green flag. It's the way the person's going to receive that feedback. And the red flag here for that would be the person doesn't know how to take criticism or feedback in a relationship, right? Because feedback in a relationship is so important. And what happens? What happens if people don't take feedback well?
Well, they might get defensive and shun the other person out, become easily angered, and then you stop listening to the other person.
Yeah, which is a red flag. It means you can't move forward in a relationship because you guys always keep getting stuck in the same exact spot.
Yeah.
So here's a next red flag: lack of respect for boundaries. And I know that's loaded with so many things coming to my mind, but what's coming to your mind as far as your experience, your education, from what you have come across in your session? Lack of respect for boundaries. What does that look like?
So that's like, you communicate to the person what your boundary is, right? Which might be like, no, I don't want to do that. Or I feel uncomfortable when we do this. Can we please stop? Right. So that's, the other person has to know what your boundary is, right? But then after that, if the person is not respecting, it could look like completely, just doing the opposite of what you asked, or being very persistent, saying, well, I still want to do this. Oh, come on, please. Like
that one specifically, the last one that Jackie just said is actually more common. It's not, the lack of boundaries consistently more often happens in a manipulative way, more than it does in a abusive, intrusive way. Because in a manipulative way, you don't even know it's happening until it's too late, until that line is crossed. And I think it really starts with you by saying, okay, what are my boundaries? What lines cannot be crossed? Right. Where do I absolutely do not want to eat? Where do I do not want to go out with this dude or with this girl? Or when can I really meet their family at the appropriate time? Oh no, but you got to meet my family. Oh, they're going to love you. You may have some unfortunate experience, right? In the previous, and you realize, like, you know what? I think we got to wait about 6 months to a year. That's a boundary before I really meet your family. And that's totally okay. And then it can
also be a physical boundary.
Yes, physical boundary. So there's emotional, physical, mental boundaries that need to take place. Yeah. So especially when it comes to physical boundaries as well, then that becomes abusive. That becomes without consent. And then you're probably wondering, how does boundaries that are crossed, that are physical, that does not have consent happen? And that happens when the environment is just not in a good place. You're probably under the influence, and you know that you shouldn't be under the influence. Or I'm gonna just scratch that last part out. Okay. Physical boundaries. Yeah, physical boundaries are important as well. So let me take the next one here. Dishonesty. Wow. Dishonesty. Funny story about dishonesty. I'm gonna tell you guys this funny story to break the ice a little bit, because a lot of this topic is pretty good. Can I tell this story, Jackie? You know what I'm talking about.
Sure. Tell them my embarrassing story.
So my history as far as relationship, before I met Jackie, I was cheated on multiple times by the same person, and there was a lot of dishonesty taking place. I caught her cheating. It was horrible. So then the very big thing, a core essential thing that I wanted to take place in all future relationship with anybody, as far as siblings or work, and especially more importantly my marital and intimate relationship with my future spouse, is honesty. Like, we tell each other everything. We do not keep secrets from each other. And going into when we were first dating, I told Jackie that. She knew what would happen in my past relationship and whatnot. And then I think this may have been while we were still dating, actually. We were at a friend's house, a game night at a friend's house. And I think we were playing some type of game like Pictionary or something. Something that involved guessing. And I got the word, she got the word honesty. And then Jackie has a competitive side to her, a really big competitive side. And sometimes it seems like it doesn't matter who's in her way. She wants to win, no matter what.
She's gotten better at.
She definitely has gotten better. She won't punch you in the face. She'll just kick you in the leg instead or something. And in this game, she was into it so much. There was so much hype going around, and we're there with our friends at the time. And she got this word, and she's like, "Oh, it's that thing that your ex didn't do." And then my face went from honesty, and then you can feel the room going like, "Oh, I was."
And I was like, "Yes, we won."
Jackie was in her mode like, "Yeah, one more point for us." The whole room is like, "Oh, that's awkward."
Just
nice.
Disclaimer, guys. I was like 22. I was super young. I'm just throwing that out there. Immaturity level was really low, underdeveloped.
Her cognitive behavioral development on the prefrontal cortex of her brain hadn't been fully developed.
It's actually true because it doesn't fully develop until about the age 25. Okay. No.
For women, for males, it's actually around 27 to 30.
Wow.
Which makes sense why we say like, man, why does that young little girl seem so much more mature in her way of thinking or speaking than the young little boy? It's because women are a little bit more advanced. I don't know why God made it that way. Obviously it's working out for that. So dishonesty is a big, huge red flag.
Mm-hmm.
If the person especially is consistently lying, and something that I've realized in marital counseling, when there is dishonesty, the spouse this is kind of weird to hear, but the spouse or maybe the couple that are dating, they were dishonest because they didn't want to lose the person. Oh. They were keeping information in order to hold people close to them so that they did not see them in a different way. And if that sounds familiar to you, especially if you're that person in that relationship that is constantly lying, that's constantly being dishonest or holding the truth or not telling the complete truth, I need you to recognize that, because that could be something that needs to be worked on. And you got to be able to walk in freedom instead of fear of losing people. And that's important to address.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
So let's take a look at the next one, which we already talked about, manipulative behavior. So what's the next one after that?
So I did want to add just really quick to the manipulative behavior. Sometimes the person will, use that, like you said, to keep somebody in a relationship, right? And now this is like, again, very like unhealthy.
It is.
Toxic, no abusive relationship, right? But like I've seen it happen in my clients' lives, but also honestly in my previous like relationship before Elias, where the person would threaten to like take their life and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill myself," or I had my ex like try to jump out of my moving car. We were in the highway. Yeah, I don't know if he would actually. I don't know. I don't think he would have actually done it, but the fact that he tried to open the door was concerning. And it just happened to be around the time that I was like, "Look, we really need to break up," and it was a constant on and off. So
how do you break free from that, or how do you establish stability in that? If somebody's going through something similar where their spouse is threatening, it doesn't even have to go to the extreme of harming themselves, or they will say like, "Oh, well, you won't do better without me." Using such manipulative tactics, like how can somebody in that situation move past that?
Well, let me just really quick. Yeah, sure. So I know we're talking about dating though, right? You mentioned spouse. So I feel like
that's what I meant.
Two different things, right? But in terms of dating, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend. I would say the first step is just recognizing like this is a huge red flag and you're not responsible for somebody else's life. Cause I feel like that's just wrong. Like for somebody to put that on somebody else, especially if you're trying to break up with them, or because, maybe they're accusing you of like, "Oh, you made me feel horrible about myself." And it's like, no, like that person clearly needs better coping skills. They need to talk to somebody because their thought process, if they are genuine about it, they're in a dark place. They need help. Other times, I've seen it where it's like, no, this is just what they do. And it is manipulative in a way that it's like you're just trying to keep a person within a relationship because you're afraid of being abandoned. And that in itself, like I said, self-awareness, know that it's happening. And even if it hurts you to think of like, wow, I actually need to break up, like this is one of the healthiest decisions you can make if that person is unwilling to get help.
Yeah, that's good. So I guess it would be to be self-aware that it's happening.
Recognize when it's happening. Yeah.
If you can, not always it's possible, get them help. And then once they're in that stages of being healed and getting better, it doesn't mean, okay, now we can go back into a relationship, or it doesn't mean that, oh, we can continue on this relationship.
Right.
There needs to be some time of proper, healthy behavioral development to occur for you to then establish, okay, I think we're going now in the right place. That person has the right tools. Because I'll be with you, a lot of us are all screwed up. You know, a lot of us carry baggage. It really is dependent on that relationship. It's like, okay, am I going to go with you through what all of this that it's happening, or I'm going to allow you to first, you know, get yourself together and then we could talk? Because then that's a good time for you also to get yourself together and go through your baggage. The other step is don't do it alone. Don't feel like you have to keep that secret or keep those words that that person is saying. Speak to somebody, and in fact, not just you, but that group of people or that group of friends, help that person. So now it's not just about making this relationship survive, but it's about helping that person thrive, and that's important.
Yeah, that's good.
Constant criticism. So constant criticism is a huge red flag in any relationship, but primarily, especially in a dating relationship, because you want to be with that person to be an encourager. You want to be that person to be not in a spiteful way. And if they're offering criticism from a hurtful place, offering criticism from a place that is with bad intentions as well, to not see you succeed, that's a huge red flag too. Especially when you guys are in similar industries or similar careers or similar, you know, likes. That's not any type of flag at all, you know, because there's a lot of people in similar interests dating, but that also constantly happens, especially because one thinks that, oh, I know more than you.
Yeah.
So that's something that always needs to be watched and looked out for, especially when you're dating, because you want somebody who knows how to yield, you know, who wants somebody that knows how to merge, you know, so to speak. You want somebody that knows the difference between uplifting words and words to strike down a person, because they know you and they're going to use the information that they know about you in the worst moments, you know, basically kicking somebody when they're down. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. So if you're in a relationship that there seems to be constant criticism, and it could be actually both ways, like you guys are both at each other all the time, you can try to get into some counseling, some therapy, individual, to try to figure out what's the root. Why am I going at it so much with this one specific person? Is it their face? Is it a specific word?
Maybe they're being triggered.
They're being triggered or something. Is there something not really being talked about? Because how deep do you really go in a dating relationship to then figure out, wow, you're being very critical about this, or wow, that was really pretty harsh, to then go, hey, you know, you want to talk about it? You know, let's, you know, like some people don't want to be that close in a dating, and that's totally okay. I'll ask you, you were not prepared for this, but how can you give some guidance to someone who, like, maybe they're in a dating relationship, they see so much potential, like, wow, this could be great. This could be the father of my kids. It could be the mother of my children. But then you see some of these red flags and you're like, man, I don't know if I could be the person to really necessarily fix you. And, you know, that's not a good way to go about it. But how do we communicate to somebody in that position to guide them through to get that person help, or like communicate, you know, in a healthy way? So
yeah, the first thing I'm thinking of was like, make sure that you practice saying this before you get to the person, right? Because it's one of those conversations where it's delicate. The tone of voice you use is important. Your words.
Yeah, like, you don't want to be confrontational.
No, you want to use tact, right? So it could sound something like, hey, babe, you know, I realized there's just some things that, you know, we need to both work on so that we can continue like helping and supporting one another. And one of the things that I've noticed that is a pattern is that when you talk to me, you know, you kind of use like a condescending voice, and I don't know if you do it on purpose, and then you give an example, but you know, when you tell me things like, wow, like that was so dumb of you, like, or hey, like I had already told you that, or whatever, and then you tell them like that, it comes off wrong. And then they might, give them a chance to respond. They might be like, well, that's not what I meant, or that's not how I said it, or blah, blah, blah. Be like, okay, I totally get it. It's just, it keeps happening. And then you can bring up other instances where they have said that. And you can even mention to them like, I think it would be helpful. Like, what if we both consider just like talking to a counselor or a therapist? Not that anything is like, massively wrong, but it's just so that we can continue growing and learning how to communicate better.
That's good. That's awesome. I'm going to just add in one more thing. Here's a key ingredient to when communicating to someone else about something that needs to be worked on, not just for them, but the way that they're treating you.
Yeah.
You use the word specifically how you feel. Like, hey, I am being hurt when you say this.
Yeah.
I am embarrassed when this happens. I feel shame. Obviously you're going to have to expand some SAT vocabulary words to not just say I'm pissed off, I'm angry, and that's okay to say too, but we always are hearing those words, and those are triggering words. So, but by letting the person know like, hey, not only are you doing this, but you're doing this to me, who you're supposed to love in a caring way, and it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Yes. Now that you said that, I remember some years back, a friend told me this piece of advice, and it's been pretty effective, where you can communicate to the person and be like, I feel unloved when you fill in the blank. Insert
word here. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. I like that. So here's all right, that's pretty much what we got for red flags. Yes. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot. So if you have a red flag that we haven't talked about and you're having trouble navigating through it, let us know, and then we can talk about it in another session. So let's talk about some green flags. Let's end it on a good note. So a green flag is effective communication. There's healthy communication. Healthy communication can look like the way you are, the tone that you're speaking to somebody. Healthy communication could be the words that you're using. Healthy communication could also be timing. Timing is actually very important. If somebody's trailing behind the other person that does not want to talk, that's not good. No. You're respecting boundaries as far as timing. And I'm going to bring this up where I've talked about this before already, where we even have something that was established later on in our marriage, but it's a good thing to establish when you're dating too, is that when you recognize that one or the other person or both are low on fuel, meaning you're emotionally drained, you're mentally drained, physically, even spiritually drained, hungry. You recognize that, and you don't talk about those hard things. You don't talk about specific topics, and you wait for that. I wouldn't say storm to pass, but sometimes it does feel like a storm when Jackie's hangry.
You turn into the Hulk.
The Hulk. Yes. And so you wait for that. Timing is very important when it comes to communication. Just because you want to get your word across and you want to speak about it now, as if that's going to establish a better starting point. It won't.
It's not.
You respect that person, and when everything's calm, during times of peace, you could talk about the things that occur during the times of war.
Yes. I would say also another point to effective communication is staying on the topic. Right? Because often it's so tempting to want to now bring up
another thing.
Yes. And then when you did this,
another one.
And it's
another one.
Exactly.
Another one.
So then it's like, wait, like it can't get addressed if we keep, bouncing off of different wrongs or things that are bothering you.
Which then could come off as criticism, because you now have a list, and you're just kicking that person constantly down. It
also shows unforgiveness. Let's be real, because it's like, man, you've been keeping a long record of wrongs, holding grudges. Yeah.
And that just comes from a place where you're not feeling seen or heard, and that could be built up inside. And mind you, what's crazy about that specific topic is that the other person could be the aggressor. The other person could be causing the problems. But then if I'm the one that's holding all this information, I don't speak at all about it. Oh, yeah. And then it just comes all out, yelling or angry about it, or the way you're speaking, and that's it, I'm done. Honestly, you got the last word, but then that last word was inappropriately still said. So then now you become that person as well that needed to communicate in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Another green flag is a respect for boundaries. And honestly, I think one of the biggest key takeaways for that is that a person actually asks you. You know, Jackie and I are going to be married for 10 years. We still ask each other. We don't expect it out of each other. We don't just assume. There's things obviously that we know about each other, that we have a rhythm of things, but we always make sure that, especially in the times of stressful moments or things are not going well, or the boys are it's just one of those days, we ask. We do not assume. Because even after year 2, 5, 10 years, or even if you're dating in a relationship 1 year or 6 months, that's not the same person you started dating.
Yeah.
So you don't always want to assume, and ask, like, hey, do you mind if we do this? Hey, I was thinking about this meal for later for dinner tonight. How's that sound? It's making sure that both people are being seen and heard.
Yep.
So what's the next one, Jax?
The next one is mutual support. So that's nice. Like being able to have someone that reciprocates the same support that you're hopefully giving to them. So it doesn't feel like a one-way type of situation.
Yeah. And the way that cannot look like in a way that's not good is that one person is always suppressing their needs.
Ooh, yes.
One person is not being able to speak up, and the other person's always sort of winning all the time. So speak up. Both sides need to speak up. Both sides need to communicate their needs, their wants, their dreams, their goals. When there's always that topic, and when you're dating, like, oh, what's your 5-year plan, or what's your goals, or what your dreams? Yeah. And honestly, use that opportunity to see, can my goals, dreams, beliefs, core values align with this person?
Yep.
That's so important. That is so important.
That is good. The next one is honesty. Yeah. So being honest about, what you're feeling, like he said, what you want, what you need, and being honest when you make a mistake too. Shame will often cause us, how it did in Genesis, right? With Adam and Eve, cause them to want to hide and cover themselves up. But we're not meant to live that way, because when we hide and when we cover up our mistakes, we can't fix it. We can't heal from it. We can't recover. So even if it's something that is painful, I encourage you, tell, your boyfriend about it, like whatever it was, or your girlfriend. Yeah.
I think about the sentence which some people are familiar with, smooth seas never makes a skilled sailor. Meaning, if your relationship doesn't know how to go through some rough patches, doesn't know, it's so easy to have all these green flags during good times. It's when during rough times, those flags are tested. Most people don't realize it's not that it's because it's two different flags. It's actually the same flag. That flag basically just changes colors, because we all come from, again, baggage. We all come from places of hurt. We all come from experiences that makes who we are. Yeah. It's what those experiences are going to then transform us to either become better people or bitter people. And that happens in an individual. So imagine how it looks like in a relationship with two people. Meaning, when you do go through some rough patches in a relationship, it doesn't mean that it's the end, but you need to see how you come out of it. That's the defining factor if this relationship is going to work. Not the way that you got in, but the way you're coming out of it. Are you guys going to work together? Are you guys going to problem solve in a healthy way? Yeah. Are you guys not going to abandon each other? Are you guys going to be communicating in a healthy and effective way? Are you guys going to follow the boundaries that are going to be established? Basically, when there is that emergency, are you going to follow the plan, or are you going to jump ship? That's important. And yeah. And are we on honesty? Is that what we're on?
Yeah, we just spoke on honesty, and the next one is emotional availability.
Yeah. So and honestly, that's very important, because you're being vulnerable, you're being open. Don't wait. Honestly, I even do this with my friendships. I don't wait till the second or third time to show a person my true colors, so to speak. I don't. Yeah. I ain't got time for that. I'm already 31 years old. I have my wife, got my kids. I have a great support system, and And it's not that I'm closing my life to friendships or anything like that, but real recognizes real. And so I'm going to be as true and authentic as I can be. And whoever draws around that, that's who that person's I'm gonna click with as far as friendship. And so when it comes to dating, you want to be who you are. You want to be vulnerable. You want to be honest with yourself to show that person who you are, and what you're communicating your needs. Mind you, you don't need a list. First date, pull out a list. We'll talk about that another day. Jackie had a list.
We weren't even dating.
We weren't even dating.
Were friends. I would have not pulled that out on him.
No, you're right. Dating, she just pulled it out as we were friends. That's a smart move. Gave me a really good heads up what I was gonna be. But it's a good story. We'll tell that story another time. But basically, you can start dropping hints as far as what your expectations are. Okay, let's take a look here. There's a couple of few, and we're almost running out of time. There's emotional availability. There's consistency.
And effort. Yes, to continue to grow, basically. And I think, honestly, we can sum that one up by just saying, just be, moldable.
Be flexible.
That's the right word.
If you're with somebody who's being stubborn, especially if they use these words, it's just who I am. All right. So that means you're going to deal with that person, who they are, for the next 10, 20 years. Are you okay with that? You gotta think about that.
Yeah, I feel like somebody should be willing to grow, honestly, because that's normal.
Yeah, that's good. And then last green flag is the person they know how to apologize and how to forgive.
And I'll just add real quick. I was not good at apologizing in the beginning of our relationship, even seeping into our marriage, and that was just something I had to learn. But I was willing to learn, despite my pride and despite my upbringing and all the, other things that kind of set it up to be that way. So if the person that you're dating, you see that they're struggling, that's actually, I would say, decent, because the struggle shows that they're trying to do it. It's hard, but they're trying. But yes, it's... And
that happens, by the way. There's two things that come to mind, which is, I hope you have a pen and paper some down, or a way to memorize this, because this is actually something that was taught to me. When somebody has a hard time apologizing, not because they're in the process and they're having a hard time apologizing, but they're just not doing it. It could be avoidance. It could be some type of a form of loss of control. It could also be that they just don't know how to. It wasn't modeled to them growing up. Their parents, their people who were around them, who were the adults in the room, did not show them what apologizing looks like in a healthy way. What the words are to say. You probably think, no, this adult has seen movies and know how to apologize. They learned the word sorry, but it doesn't mean that they actually know how to do it, because it's something that is behaviorally learned, mentally learned, emotionally learned. And a big one is the whole controlling factor. A lot of people don't like apologizing to other people because they feel like they're losing control of whatever that aspect of that topic is, and the other person is winning. Like that type of mentality. No, I cannot apologize, and they're going to win. I cannot apologize, or else they're gonna be better than me.
And if there's trauma background, that can also sound like what you just said, right? Like, I can't allow this other person to have power, because then you feel unsafe.
Exactly. So, and we're not going to unpack that, because that's a lot. That's a lot. That you need to go to therapy. You need to go to counseling. And if that sounds familiar to you whatsoever, Jackie and I are here to help anybody who needs help. So to finish up, I wanted to tell you guys what the Bible teaches about what love looks like. What does a healthy relationship look like? And I love how 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4-7, it says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist in its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Man, reading that verse, especially after we just talked about the red and green flags, because sometimes people read that, they're like, oh, I'm not God to do that. Oh, I'm not a perfect person. That is too much. That's
Yeah.
too much work.
I've heard that.
And that's actually what it is. It is work. It is an intentionality to put all these things into practice. And we just went through it in the past 30 minutes on a lot of the same thing that what the Bible just talked about, what to look for in a person, but also how you should be working on it on yourself. And more importantly, allow yourself to be moldable in the hands of God.
Yes.
If you're not there, it's okay. Because guess what? God meets us where we are at to continue molding us into his image. Allow his love to just overflow out of you. And I promise you, it will be possible for you to love that person, to forgive that person, to have that relationship with that person, to be a better person and not bitter. And that's all because through the love of Jesus Christ that he has for us. And I'm so grateful for that, because I love it that he does it for me. And I'm able to, have that overflow to my children, to my wife, because I'm not a perfect person. So when I read these passages, it's not an impossible task, because I know a God who makes things possible.
Yes. And just to add a final note, remember that love, or to love somebody, is not just a feeling. Feelings come and go. It's a choice. Like you mentioned, hard work, intentionality, right? And surrendering yourself onto God and saying, God, help me to be loving, to be kind, and so forth. Amen.
So I'm going to just end up here basically saying our outro, I guess, of the video and the podcast, but I'm going to ask Jackie to pray for us and pray for you too. That is in the relationship, dating, or possibly even just looking, that God can guide you. Jackie?
Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you so much, God, for being with us. Lord, I just ask right now that you give us wisdom. Lord, help us to just surrender onto you, Lord, our heart's desire to either be in a relationship, to stay in a relationship. But Father, help us, God, because we want to make wise choices as to who we invest our time, our energy with, God. We know that the person whom we will start to get to know, or the person that we're dating, will influence us and we will influence them. So help us, God, to just be godly, to choose our words carefully, God, to align our thinking with yours so that we can truly reflect your character. I also pray, God, that the listeners may have courage to be able to speak up, to communicate their boundaries, their needs, and their wants. I pray, God, that you give them humility so that they are flexible and moldable. I pray, God, that you remove any pride that will get in the way of them being able to receive or give out love. And I pray, Jesus, that when they feel confused or they feel lost or they don't know what to do, that they can look up and see where their help comes from, that they know, God, that if they lack wisdom, they can ask you and you will freely give it to them. So we thank you, Jesus, for being our friend and our counselor. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining in today's Soulful Session. I'm Elias Dora, Christian counselor, alongside with Jackie Dora, licensed mental health therapist. If you are seeking counseling or need somebody to present a mental health or biblical related, Bible related topic by me or Jackie, who is available, call us or text us at 305-925-0827 or visit therapiescounseling.org for more information. Thank you for listening in. We love you guys. Stay soulful.